Hey, good morning, everyone. Here at beautiful Mystery Island with none other than McDuff. How are you this morning, John?
Good morning, George. Hey, I'm great. Of course, I went to bed a little earlier than most folks. So, how are you this morning?
Yeah, well, we had two different things going on yesterday. I actually, you were so kind. A long-term friend of yours had a death with his spouse, and you sang a beautiful version of Danny Boy for him, and that was just very moving and very touching. And I thank you very much for that last night.
Oh, you're very welcome, George. I'm not doing any music professionally right now, but I'm trying to keep my skills up and just to share what I have so far. Whenever we win this war, guys, I'll be back on the stage, hopefully singing those lovely roles that I like to sing.
Yeah. Well, last night was the premiere of Neighborhood News Hour, and they're out of Michigan. And I don't know if everybody's seen Neighborhood News Hour, the episode yet, but I tweeted it out. You remember how when you started a year ago, your first show.
Oh my God.
These guys get an A for set design. Something's happening right at the beginning of their episode, so that they got either a DOS attack or something, because there's a warble in the audio.
What is a DOS attack?
It's when you get a whole
denial of service.
Yeah. So if you go to the 14-minute mark, that's where they kind of get into saying what. There they are. Here they are. Sorry for the bad sound. The first really the first 5 or 6 minutes. So I just want to let everybody know. Don't let that put you off. That their first broadcast was really great, and I encourage the content, John.
Yeah.
It reminds me of you and your book train. They start with a stack of books, and one of them is the Borman Brotherhood. It reminds me when you did Jim Mars's book on the Borman.
Yeah, The Rise of the Fourth Reich.
The Rise of the Fourth
Reich.
Which
really, I think if you're somebody that likes to dig in and find the details of things, read Jim Mars's books, because like a number of the best authors, his index at the end is a substantial part of the book. His documentation of what we call the Borman Brotherhood is outstanding, and I think people need to reach into these authors that you mentioned, George. And speaking of authors, I have a little bit of an announcement to make. May I?
Sure.
Well, people have been wondering what's the next book I'm going to read on the McDuff channel.
Okay.
And
can't wait to find out.
I've got it right here in my hand. And 11 o'clock this morning on McDuff channel will be the first reading of this book. It's called Blackberries Matter by George Webb. And
astonishment! Wow, I feel so honored to be on the book train. Am I going to get on the book train?
After I read the book.
Oh yeah. I can't believe it. I'll be up there with all those guys.
We're going to put you right up there with Jim Mars and all the great writers.
Stephen Kinzer, you've read
because it has that kind of importance to me, George, and it's the time right now. I mean, this is not the work of 4 or 5 years of scholarly library digging. We neither one of us would ever compare what you've done here to that type of an effort. This is different. This is a new kind of book that's really as much journalism as it is traditional authorship. I don't want to characterize you except for to say that the importance of this book, is far outweighs the narrow width of it. Let's leave it right there.
Well, and I would say that's 4 years of shoe leather. Maybe not. I'm learning as I go. We're bolting the wings on as we're going down the runway. Here's Neighborhood News Hour. Start Borman Brotherhood tonight. John has an 8 p.m. show, and they're going to follow right after with 9 o'clock and 9:30 show. Whenever you finish.
See, George, I was thinking, this is one word that comes out of this particular newsroom charrette that you've held to me in my mind. And that word is networking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Because on the one hand, you see the secret networking through the rat lines, through the Five Eyes, and through all of the secret um, sorry, I got distracted, but throughout all the secret networks.
Mhm.
And what you're doing here is a different kind of networking. It's the kind of networking that is open, that is completely open. And this networking is the networking that's going to take down the secret networking,
Right.
because ultimately the truth is always going to win out. We just are the agents right now of truth.
Right.
And our networking is like talking to Neighborhood News Hour and reaching out and saying, I don't want to step on John's slot. That's networking. That's positive networking. And I appreciate that very much. Now, I am certainly want you to have a great slot too. So if you want to talk to me later, we can work something out that we both have. I like the idea of networking all over the country, and people want to coordinate things with my schedule. Look at screamingospreys.com. Jumping Mouse right now is just about putting the finishing touches on our weekly teaser that we publish every week, and but the monthly calendar is there. So, but thank you so much for reaching out about that. And what I can do is I can just promise that at the end of my 8 o'clock slot, I will push everybody over to your 9 o'clock slot, and that people can have continuous coverage.
Yeah, that's such a great idea, John. And I think people are rediscovering your original books that you did a year ago. And the books might bubble up. I saw the guys on Neighborhood News Hour had like 8 books, just like your book train, and they wanted to get to all of them. And the first thing you want to do when you're first getting into coming on the other side of the camera is get it all out there, push it all out there. So they're trying to get all 8 books out at once, which was really great. It was a good first one for me to see the scope of the things they can talk about. So I really am looking forward to watching Neighborhood News Hour. Plus, it's a great name. And I'm going to be going up there this week. I don't know exactly when, but we want to introduce everybody, just like Addy adds, young journalists, all walks of life, they've all made the decision to get on the other side of that camera, and that makes all the difference. And it is one of those things, like you said, McDuff, it's a chain reaction.
Yeah.
So that everybody that does it, it's not, we don't take away from each other.
No.
Right? We amplify each other's work and cross-reference. I remember
it's good. It's good content. I always go back to the idea of a nice piece of music, like a nice fiddle tune, because I like to play the old fiddle tunes. And how do you think that those things got spread around? Do you think that somebody was sitting around and he heard of this great fiddler over in California, and he wrote away and he said, "Sir, I would love to have one of your tunes," and the guy writes him back and says, "Well, I have a patent on that tune, so you need to talk to my lawyer about that tune, because you can't use it without paying my lawyer whatever he wants, and so have a nice day." That's not the way music works, and that's not the way truth works. So I think it's a good model for the idea that if you have a great musical tune and somebody sitting next to you listening to it picks it up, that's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. That spreads goodness. It spreads good music. And when we're spreading good information, it's the same thing. I don't claim ownership of anything that I have said on any of my, 900 shows. I just want to spread the news that we have a network. We have a means of solving these problems.
John, I'll do the comments here while you're making yours. Neighborhood News Hour says all the books lead to the 68,000 files.
Wow.
And see, that is, for those not familiar with McDuff's role before he comes to the Kennedy administration and the Joint Chiefs of Staff, and the whole Oswald and Ruby investigation that we now know he was involved in and all that. Before that, he worked for Hoover, and Hoover, he was the final check for doing the extreme vetting that Donald Trump talks about. He was the check on the guys in the field. He had a staff of 40 or so, something like that.
Yeah, I have to look at my notes, but it was about 20 lawyers and secretaries that worked on the project, the 68,000 file project, which we still don't know for sure what it is. We haven't seen a list of these files. But for instance, we went to Florida, George, and we talked to Wayne Madsen,
Mhm.
who's a great authority on this stuff. And I've asked him to point out, I said, what do you think these 68,000 files represent? And he said, yeah, these are like paperclip, only it's probably maybe the Eastern European versions that are coming in here. And that's perfectly consistent with the great book by Blowback by Christopher Simpson, who describes all of these Gladio people from Eastern Europe coming into our cities and used as operatives to affect elections, to get the right people elected, and otherwise, to be lingering. What do you call it when you linger? You're a silent agent waiting to be told what to do.
Oh, a subversive, yeah, subversive operative or whatever. Yeah, these definitely were. He was counterintelligence. We know McDuff was counterintelligence at Unit 5. We took some of the folks here who'd never been to Washington by the Trump International Hotel, which was the old Washington field office of your dad. That was one place they wanted to see, and we're going to take more people there today, and it really does hit home. When they see those, it's the clock tower,
And you think
down
of
Pennsylvania Avenue. Go ahead.
You think of McDuff and the Washington field office in what the building that really should be called the old post office building.
Yeah.
It's now called Trump Hotel, Trump Tower,
Trump International
Hotel.
Yeah.
But it's the old post office, and it became the headquarters of the Washington field office. And now you have Trump there with the ghosts of the FBI, living right with him in that same building. I do hope that there's some positive effect just from being in that building.
Yeah, it is very the kismet here, or the coincidence, or serendipity, whatever you want to call it, is really amazing, because you have the picture of my McDuff book. He's in front of Union Station, another iconic architectural building in Washington, D.C. But I would love to get a picture of you in front of Trump International Hotel, because you stand in the shoes of McDuff. We have you in front of the archives, a beautiful picture. We have you in front of where you practice law, in front of the Northern District of Virginia, another beautiful shot taken by Peter Duke. But I really believe the next book I write about McDuff, I want that picture of you in front of the old FBI building where he got those 68,000 files. I think that would be an awesome picture.
Yeah, well, I'm honored to do that for you, George, and anything else I can do for you, because, but let's get back to this. And I'm going to have to excuse myself soon, because
Sure.
I've got to go set up for
Your show. Yeah.
But at 11 o'clock this morning, we will be premiering the first reading of Blackberries Matter by George Webb on McDuff channel, and definitely visit us at screamingospreys.com for the entire schedule for the week and for the month. Thanks very much, George.
All right, John. Everybody check out John this morning. I'll be watching, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're going to want some comments, because I'm going to have questions.
Yeah, unfortunately, YouTube has banned me. I can't even make comments.
Oh, that's right. You can't even make comments?
Yeah, I can't even make comments. So
all right, we need a proxy for you.
I have a lot of them, right? So that's all right. McDuff,
right.
Thank you very much.
All right, George.
And we'll see you a little bit later today. Okay.
George Webb, thanks,
man.
Man.
Thank you. The next guest we have this morning is Addy Ads. Again, another generation of up-and-coming journalists that really are changing the landscape. So here he is, Addy Ads, this morning.
Hi, folks. Good morning from the Potomac. It's great weather this morning. A little nicer to us today than it's been the last couple of days, the raining and the floods. But shout out to all my patriots worldwide checking in. I see Neighborhood News Hour's channel is up and running. We were talking about his channel last night. But yeah, thanks for having me today, George.
Yeah, and Addy, I really have enjoyed what you've brought to journalism, because we've been through this COVID thing. We've been through this Operation Lockdown, Operation Lockstep, and you've been the guy to say, you know what, I'm leaving Kenosha. I'm leaving Wisconsin. I'm going on the road. I think you came down through Kenosha. But you're going to the places. And this is what I was doing 3 years ago. Just get in the car and go. And you are also interviewing and meeting different people that are doing shows, that are doing YouTube, to break that barrier down, that we're all locked down in our own little hovels. And I think you with shrimp. How do you say shrimps?
Shrimp Zoo is a YouTuber I've been working with as
And
well.
that's shrimp ZOO.
ZOO. Yep. He started out as a shrimp farming channel, and he's turned into 100% geopolitics and current events. And I actually met Shrimp through Paul Cottrell, likewise with George here. And Paul and I chat often on Saturday mornings, and then Paul Cottrell's got his chat with George on Sunday mornings. We spoke with Paul yesterday with Peter Duke, which was great. Yeah, really thankful to have been invited down here. So again, I'm coming from, actually originally when this lockdown started, I was in Eugene, Oregon, where I was boots on the ground for some protests there as well. And of course, everybody knows kind of the little hot spot that is Oregon right now in California with the fires that are going on, of dubious genesis, shall we say. And since then, I've been in Wisconsin, and then now I'm back. It's my second time now in the DMV, and first time in DC was last night. We were in DC, was it, or 2 nights ago?
Yeah. We again, he's one of the people we took to the Trump International Hotel to see where McDuff was breaking all these cases, the Scarbeck case and the Golanowski case and the Kissinger case. So it's really kind of exciting. And let me go back here to the comment from Neighborhood News Hour here. Why don't you read the comment, Addy? You got better eyes than I do.
So Addy was hunting Klaus Barbie, the Butcher of Lyon, a few months ago. Great show. Yeah, so I do these kind of skywalking things where I'll take my GoPro and then I'll dub over my voice with some commentary on an historical event or a figure. And that time in particular was the Butcher of Lyon, Klaus Barbie, who is the head of intelligence for Nazi Germany in Lyon, France. And one of the most evil and twisted individuals in history, Klaus Barbie. And I use him as a conduit for teaching people about and learning about the relationship between Nazi Germany and the United States post World War II. We've been talking about Operation Paperclip, and somebody mentioned Annie Jacobson's book yesterday. I haven't read that, but we do know about that connection with the scientists from Nazi Germany and the U.S. But they didn't use just scientists. They used these guys in intelligence as well, these kind of masters of the dark arts to fight communism, principally in Europe and then later in South America as well.
Now, Neighborhood News Hour is mentioning that those U-boats, were they shuttling these guys around on U-boats? Because we have a U-boat right down there that sunk beyond Piney Point there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. I was talking with, I think it was Wes actually yesterday, about the Museum of Science and Industry in Chicago, where they have, I think it's U-boat.
Oh, yeah, it's a huge one.
235. I can't remember the number. But that's a great exhibit.
234, I think.
234.
Because I remember the uranium is 235, and it was carrying uranium, I think.
Oh, wow.
Maybe I've got that. U-234, I think, had all the gold trays that were used in the, it's just an amazing trove of British, Nazi war secrets and so forth. Yeah,
and it's a great exhibit too. If people want to check out a U-boat, you can actually walk right onto the U-boat in Chicago there. Great museum. If you're like me, you might want to go alone so you can take your time and read things. Otherwise, you're going to feel rushed by your companions.
Yeah, that's a good point. You've also been to Buffalo, or you're going to Buffalo with Shrimp Zoo to do some. You're going to meet up with Paul Cottrell there.
Yep. Yeah, we're going to try to do a road trip to New York City to see Paul. And Shrimp Zoo and I are going to try to make that trek sometime within the next month. I'll be there on Wednesday. So you heard it here first, folks. I don't know if I have any shrimpers in the crowd, but we actually haven't mentioned that or announced it yet that we are going to be meeting up. So Shrimp's hosting me for a month, and we're going to be cranking out videos every day, working pretty much every day on geopolitics and current events. And learning from guys like George as well. And hopefully we'll get a chat with George on as well while we're over in Buffalo.
Yeah, and I want to encourage everyone in my audience that if you are thinking about starting a channel, or if you have a channel that you want to publicize, I'm going to be starting next year. I'm going up to see Neighborhood News Hour maybe tomorrow, maybe the day after. But But if you have someone who is starting a channel, put him on the road, make him come to you and do a couple of shows together. And that way, Addy will get more road hours. And there's nothing like going and doing in-person interviews. Somehow that really breaks through. You get to know what the person's like, etc. Meeting you, certainly, I've been even more impressed than when I mean, if for those who don't know who Addy Ads is, he's the one who sort of made COVID history. I want to say television history, but I know I would be wrong. But COVID history by bringing together 6 of the top experts together at once to talk about this. We're getting an 505 is the submarine in the Science and Industry Museum.
So fact check there from Wes.
It's the fact
U-boat
check.
505.
Yeah.
In Chicago.
But
Illinois.
234 is the one that had the 235. Yeah.
Oh,
So
wow.
so I am right about that one. And that did have the war secrets, and it stopped in the same house. Some of the war secrets, were in the same house that later the Russian hoax used for stealing Hillary Clinton's emails with the supposed Russian operatives. Are we sure these aren't just the same Ukrainian guys just changing uniforms? But we'll get to that story at a later time. But I really want to encourage people to when you go to Buffalo, you should stop in and see the folks at Neighborhood News Hour and do a show with them.
Oh, is he in Buffalo, New York?
Well, no, they're in near the border of Ohio and Michigan, but it's right on the way.
Yeah.
And
Neighborhood News Hour is actually one of my Patreons, one of my patrons.
Oh, really? Okay.
Shout out to them for that. Better hit the road now before a beautiful woman marries you and settles you down.
Yeah, you want to stay away from you can, that's, you don't publicize that part, right? So, yeah, you don't want to do that. You want to go out and go to all your cities and go to all your states now before they slow you down. At least the world would be at a loss if we didn't do that. Neighborhood News Hour did mention your interest in historical intelligence figures, which I think is quite interesting for a guy your age, 25 years old.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. It seems like a lot of young people aren't into history as much as they should be, maybe, especially given current events, George, and how a lot of this stuff is, it's been attempted before, but in different mediums and different modes. They're just using the powers that be, the tools that are at their disposal now to try to seize control of really the world, as I see it. And I think a lot of people are seeing it that way as well with the lockdown. And you hear about, like, with Harry Vox, he did his great piece about 6 years ago of them using curfews and the lockdown as their last toolkit, the last part of the toolkit to seize total control of society, really, with their attempts to try to go cashless. But just responding to what George said about the roundtables that I had going on, I think I was the first person on YouTube to do them. I don't know.
Yes, you were. I mean, just the idea of having to call everybody and get everybody lined up, and you have to go through all the technical hassles and so forth. That was the first time. It was you and Paul Cottrell. Paul Cottrell was publishing this seemingly dark hand, the sinister dark hand here again with the CDC, trying to manipulate the news and put Donald Trump in sort of a no-win situation. And he broke onto the scene worldwide when he published the text of the CDC whistleblower. And you picked right up on that, and you brought him in, and you brought these 5 other experts. I remember Kevin McCairn in Japan was one of them. It was just an amazing, and they were 3 hours long, and I was riveted. I was learning so much. And then you see also the arguments where people are in disagreement. So that, for people who are like, okay, this is destroying our world right now, we should probably learn a little bit about this.
Yeah,
it was the right thing at the right time. And you might still want to go back to that and do another recap of that.
Yeah, definitely. It was in high demand, very high demand then, and now we got like CBS and CNN. They got their own roundtables. We saw in like the months after that, and then even like other people in the alternative media too, which is it's totally cool. I'm not saying I invented the table or the concept of people sitting around a table and chatting together, but Yeah, it was great talking to all the different doctors. I just had a recent doctor, Carl McMillan, and I think he's from North Carolina, and he's really his expertise is removing like old cavities with I think it's the mercury that
mercury inserts.
that they use or they have used historically with cavities, and he has his own thoughts too about this pandemic, which people can check out on my channel. But he's self-employed, so he doesn't have the fear that a lot of these doctors have, where you see with some of the doctors in the White Coat Summit in Houston losing their job. And I think the brunette lady in Florida, she might have gotten punished too with speaking out. But I think if you do have that option to speak out, I think people should take advantage of that and have some courage about it too.
I want to ask you about Kenosha, you being a Wisconsin guy, and I know you've been there, and it seemed like you saw the Rittenhouse with the guy with the AR-15 and
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, the Rittenhouse.
Yeah.
It seem like, I mean, to me, it seemed like a psyop to say it's okay to shoot people with your AR-15, on one side. It just seems like these are deliberate psyops to divide people. And the other side is saying, these white racist supremacists are shooting us. And it seemed just like a setup to me to burn the town down. I mean, Kenosha's, destroyed.
Yeah, Kenosha is a mid-sized city, about 100,000 people in the southeastern part of Wisconsin. And whether or not it is a purposeful psyop or not, I think the end goal is being achieved regardless of this divide and conquer. And I see it too with really smart people that I've worked with who are kind of falling for what I call binary thinking or light switch thinking, where they're saying either, on one end, this guy should go to jail, or on the other end, he was a self-defending patriot, where I don't think it's like one or the other necessarily, in those types of situations. It's not clear cut always. So
yeah, I like that light switch thinking. I steal everything, right? So all that was going to my lexicon, right? You said the gray area. You talked about the gray area, and why don't you address that?
Yeah,
thinking in the gray areas. Yeah.
Well, I think this is